Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM24 Youth Factory, episode 72. So, we're into the FA Cup, first match, mid-January, and we've really lucked out on the draw. This is the easiest draw we've had in many years when it comes to this one. It's League 2 side Exeter City. For them, they've been on a bit of a roller coaster, a little yo-yo ride. They were the League 2 playoff promoted team, and definitely not the highest qualifier in said playoff a couple years back. But then they turned right around last season and finished dead last in League 1. Dropping back down to League 2 this season, they are just 9th place. We are on the road though, so it's not that easy. I didn't overdo it with squad rotation, for sure. We've got a good competitive team that should be in pretty firm control of this match today. But having a go at our more attacking 3-4-3 formation that I created this year. Of course, I am now up to those three formations, our traditional long-term formation that we've had from the very, very beginning of this series. And then our very defensive, and this one, that more neutral, both defensive and a way to attack. And highlights have been few and far between here. But like I said, there are some changes to the side. There's a few guys that we've just ultimately tried to rest, but there's only so much you can rest without really, really hampering kind of what your choices are. And leaving guys out of selection entirely. So I didn't really want to do that, didn't want to risk that. But here's Whitehouse with a start, and he puts that one into the upper corner. Very well placed, plenty of power on that. Drilled that into the upper corner from just outside of the penalty spot there. Good ball in. And yeah, right down the middle, placement-wise, with the penalty spot there. A few yards ahead of him. And we haven't had a ton of possession, but we've definitely had the bulk of the possession and had the ball kind of placed where we needed it to be placed. Getting the attempts, 5 on target from 7 attempts, and we lead 1-0 at the half. I'm going to go ahead and switch this to positive for the early stage of the second half. Not sure what's wrong with Webb. All right, morale fixed as we enter the second half. We'll see if we can maintain control, and if going positive can get us on that front seat. McCartney, good interception. Hewitt, now Whitehouse. Whitehouse cuts, finds Ward. Ward curls that. Obviously got under it a bit too much. He was trying to get some bend on it, and he did get the bend on it. It was headed for the corner, but just too much lift. Couldn't get it to drop back down, and we approach 1 hour. I'm a little nervous that we're only up by a goal. Obviously, I'd like it to be more comfortable than this. Through ball for Ward. Ward over to Whitehouse. Whitehouse. Oh, big save. Big save there. Kunle. It's cleared out. Wiley. Rossini. Both getting the start today. So, 3 guys, 3 changes today with Rossini, Wiley, and Whitehouse all starting. Out for a corner. Not a offside. Oh, and he beats our man, and then they still get it back. Finally, Ward clears it away. He had time to take a touch on that, but apparently wasn't messing about. Eventually out for a goal kick on that one. Only had a couple of attempts here, and they've definitely done more and had higher XG this half than they had in the first. And we're getting into those later minutes. Let's drop this back down to balanced. I don't need to go ultra defensive with this team, I don't think, at all. But we will time waste just a little bit. And then thinking about those subs. Adekunle having a terrible game. We might as well bring him off. We want him to rest anyway. But Penrese is the only backup I have at his position, so he's going to have to come on for us. Adekunle earns corner there. Much better play. Ward, on yellow and tired. What do I have for a backup there? I don't even have. We have injuries, and this is... Oh, Redknapp. Okay, Redknapp will come on. Thought we went for a clearance, and the ball went about 6 inches. Whitehouse, nice turn there. Takes it to the sideline, takes the early cross. Lanahan Penrys, it's cleared away. Redknapp, his shot just inside the post. If the keeper wasn't so well placed, that might have gone in, with the keeper able to pretty easily grasp it as he was well positioned. Rossini gets a partial poke on it, and then that's blocked out for a corner kick. Another half clearance. And again a half clearance. Fisher turns way too easy on that one. And the score's level. Are you kidding me? Oh, offside! Wow. Wow, that is so lucky. That is so lucky. It didn't look offside. Lanahan Penrys with the turn and should have done better. That was way too much down the middle. The turn took a lot of the effort, and he couldn't get much purchase positionally there. And I suppose that's in possession now. Into stoppage time. 4 more minutes to see this out. McFadden, does get it to Hewitt. Lanahan Penrys bangs that off the crossbar after it took a deflection right off the foot. McFadden is quite tired, but he's having a good game. Oh, yeah. So many missed chances. We have Chris Buttle, who's not good as a striker. It's not his strong suit. I would have started him otherwise, but we're going to go ahead and bring him on to finish this out for a minute and a half for his debut at the senior level. Redknapp turns that one over. Hassel gets there first. Good pressure there, forces a bad shot, time's up. And there's the final whistle. 1-0. They put it in the back of the net, though, and they definitely came to play in the second half there with a couple big chances. And it's a little scary when we come out. But again, that's a formation that it's not going quite as well as I would hope. And we did have that squad rotation there, but we're 2 tiers above these guys. That game should have been way more comfortable than it ended up being. Our 4th round matchup will be at home against Watford, who currently are last in the Premier League. January is done, or at least in terms of competitive matches. We got the win against Hull at the start of the month, with Burton a draw. Poorly played, so lucky to get away with a point there. But a close loss to Ipswich Town. But you could also see there that we're probably lucky that it wasn't worse. We got that win against Exeter, but we played poorly. A lot of bad signs outside of that whole victory. But we do squeeze off a Sheffield Wednesday victory. Archie Jones picks up an injury in the earliest minutes, though, and that is a worry. It's Lee Ward who got the winner in that one. But then we traveled to Stoke, and, well, it went pretty poorly. We were down 2 within that first half hour. Then they got a penalty in stoppage time, and we finally get a consolation goal. But looking at the ratings, it probably wasn't as bad as it ultimately turned out, scoreline-wise. So we're going to be heading into February next. We're still 15th. Preston, that's going to be a hard one. And then Watford, FA Cup, Premier League. Okay, yeah, they're last. Maybe, just maybe, but probably not. They're probably going to be a step too far. We struggle with the top teams in our league. Bristol City away, Coventry, Huddersfield, Bournemouth away, back-to-back against the top 2 on the road, and then finally Blackburn. I don't think we're going to get that many points in the month of February, most likely. I also assume that our FA Cup will come to an end with Watford, even though they are struggling. And yes, there's a chance, but I still feel it's highly unlikely. So I have a feeling we're probably going to drop a couple positions, but I doubt we'll drop into the relegation zone. That's my hope for the month, to at least maintain safety, parity, mid-table-ish, even if we drop a couple of spots. But hopefully we can, secure some points during the month and not drop off so bad that the morale takes a huge hit. One thing I have been doing through this month of January is getting some contracts, expiring contracts dealt with, and made sure we get a lot of these reserve guys signed up. There's still more to make decisions on, whether I want to retain, guys with the lower potential being the ones that are going to be most vulnerable, and that's the only end that I haven't bothered with yet. I'll have to start kind of looking at what our depth is like and make decisions there, but a lot of those decisions can ultimately wait till March. It's this squad, and most of that was already dealt with prior, so that we don't have those expiring contracts, so that we don't get those offers coming in. Despite that, we're still getting a big offer coming in. It's Steve Walker who is drawing the most attention right now. Most of these guys aren't even wanted anymore, which is huge for us because it's always been such a problem. But these longer contracts, higher value contracts, increase the player value, and it's turning off a lot of would-be suitors. Steve Walker, ignore the training rating. He's been injured and just started training again a couple of days ago, so it's been very limited for him. The rating's not great, but it's not like anybody's rating is great. We're back to under 7 for everybody except for the guys that have only played a couple of times. But Walker's been good, and he's drawing a lot of attention. He's nearly at his potential. He's got very little more that you can, squeeze out. But he's good. He's our third best player. I don't want to lose him. He can play 3 positions, and he's a good player. But I have a sneaky feeling that here in these last few days of the month, there's a good chance he's going to go. And if I can, I'll get him on loan back. But I think we're getting awfully close. And ironically, it's Watford who's pretty big on him and coming in with the biggest offers. It's driven his value up a little bit further, as I've said no so far. They haven't come in with that concrete above value offer. They've gone small money up front, lots of add-ons exceeding value by a little bit, and it's just slowly seeing that value creep up with him. High end is 5.6 million. I will absolutely not accept anything less than 8 million with add-ons at this point, because I've said no to one of those, but it was only 2 million up front, and it was like 6 million in add-ons. Yeah, barely said no to that one. If they come back with 9 or 10, I'll have no choice. I will have to say yes. So that's where we're at on that one. Walker could be on the way out. Literally one day later, the board has straight up said yes on this one. 7.25 million, which is less than what we were offered a day ago, but they've restructured it in such a way. 2.8 million after a certain amount of league appearances, just 10 games, okay. 20 goals though to get another 2.8 million. Percentage of profit from the next sale is 30%, and then an arranged friendly and a loan back offer, which we will absolutely accept. That was one of those key parts that I was just talking about. Okay, see, here's the difference. So they really stepped up the offer. The fee is 7.25 million right now, and that was what I was pulling back on, going, well, they were only offering 2 up front. They increased that by 5 without really taking away elsewhere. I mean, that was plus 5, and that was about the 8 million. So this is all about what they were offering before. They just increased the upfront fee by 5 million, and that was in excess of value. That 100% without a doubt, even if the board didn't say yes, I would have been saying yes. That was the difference maker, and getting the loan back is big. Now, I'm not a fan of the fact that we didn't get to negotiate a bit, but I'm pretty okay with the majority of what's here. We're getting the loan back. The fee is big. But the good news is we'll get Walker for the rest of this season. We just have somebody to replace for next season, but Whitehouse has already kind of stepped into that position. And there's a lot of under 21s now that are already into that mid-90s, and that was a good chunk of the team just last season. So while they're not good enough for championship, they are not far from it and growing rapidly, and I would expect we're going to get to 100 plus with a few of those players before the end of the season, and they'll be just fine, especially as we're not promoted this year. We'll still be in the championship. If it was Premier League, I'd be worried. Where's he headed? Watford. But not until the end of the season. Will we get a chance to... Nothing on the salary contribution. That's good. If I can, Walker's absolutely played against Watford. And yeah, that'll be interesting. It's behind the face camp. Ironically, the deal comes at exactly 100 appearances for club for Steve Walker. 17 goals scored in that time. And as we're just 2 days away from the transfer deadline, Walker's been nearly all of the activity, and nothing else has been coming in. But here they come with Sam Lyons offers again, but well short of his value at this stage. And of course, Lyons is upset yet again. He got over it before, but he's right back to, why aren't you accepting the deal that's worth nowhere near what I'm worth? Because it's worth nowhere near what you're worth. And you're an important player to us. Do you not understand that? Should be pretty obvious, right? Into the deadline day, 8 a.m. Of course, Sam Lyons is now the dramatic one for this deadline day. The deal for Walker, it's the first player we've lost in a year and a half. So we are doing much better with the longer term contracts, right? Avoiding too much attention for our players as we used to have. And all of that's happened as we've been able to climb the ladder and provide longer contracts, right? We just couldn't do it before. It was 1-2 year deals. So we were always on short term deals. So it was always easy for bigger clubs to come in. But we still don't have a huge reputation, but we are in the championship. And so there's a certain valuation that exists. We're picking up $7.25 million for a deal that hasn't been finalized just yet. Yeah, it still hasn't been finalized. It's still just a bid. So I'm assuming at this point they are negotiating with Walker himself. And there it is, close to signing. $12.75 million. We will add $5 million of the current $7 million into our budget. The rest, the board is gonna take that payout for themselves. And at the exact same time, Donnell Traynor, best player in the championship. He had the best rating this season. He was like second in the league in goals scored. Has just left Stoke, who kicked our butts recently. I wonder if he scored in that game. I'll have to go back and check that here real quick. But we get a 2% solidarity payment on his $44 million transfer, which amounts to nearly $1 million. So we are getting a pretty healthy bump here, which I'm going to immediately try to turn into a training facility upgrade. For one, I've already promised it to a player. Two, that's the path forward. We need to have the best to get these guys to develop as quickly as possible if we're going to ever reach the Premier League, especially with no signings possible, right? Traynor did not score any of the goals there against Stoke City. There we go. Past the transfer deadline. Steve Walker, obviously both in and out, but otherwise we avoid any major dealings. I like the pay package on that one. It's really going to help us out. So, new payroll. Well, Everton back on top ahead of the Wolves. Or was it already them? Anyway, they're neck and neck. And we are still obviously down in last, with payroll actually decreasing with the exit of Walker and not any major new contracts in the short term that have us still at 3/4 of what Burton is paying, and roughly half of QPR and Barnsley, and barely a third of Lincoln, and just trailing off further and further from there. So from those two deals, right, the $800K on Trainer plus the vast majority, of course, on the Steve Walker deal, our finances, right, excluding what the board decided to hoard for themselves, went up by roughly $5 million, and are definitely the highest they have been since July of 34, that being the last big deal, which of course was our last left winger who we sold in Wilkinson. But at $7 million, I think we should be able to get the board request here. Let's get it forward a day, and then we will ask them. Walker was the third biggest deal of deadline day. Olmez for $36.5 million, potential for 43 to Freiburg is the other large deal. We have just 2 upgrades left for training facilities. Hopefully this will take care of the penultimate training facility upgrade. All the way from nothing, from a 1 of 20. We are on the verge of making it 18 out of 20. Meanwhile, Walker actually won the Young Player of the Month for the league. No wonder he was getting so much attention. And there it is for the cost of $5.5 million. So basically what we just brought in. The improvement to the training facilities has been accepted. That's fantastic. But that's all the time that I have for this one. In the cup stuff, Whitehouse has been our best player, and it looks like he's going to be getting more and more time here. Archie Jones, of course, is splitting time, especially as we are spending more time in our second and third formations than we are in that primary first formation, which I would love to get back to eventually, but the team really does have to develop quite a bit more. And right now, I think one of the bigger things we're facing is the limitation of our squad. Now that we are reaching championship level quality, we've got a lot of 120 plus players and a few more guys that are very close. I mean, McFadden is our lowest starter with a 113, and he's not good enough for the level. And it shows 6.67 rating and 29 starts, 6.71 for Hassel has not been good enough. But most of the rest of the squad is 6.8s, 6.9s. Adekunle somehow the weakest, even though he spent a good part of the season being our best. Walker, ignore all that. He's made one appearance since the loan, in which we lost, and he was pretty poor in that one. So yeah, the quality is reaching championship level, but the problem right now is that almost all the players in the senior squad, and remember, this was a theme a while back. I was happy about it until now. Now it's becoming an issue. But we were losing players left and right. We were losing 3 or 4 a season. It was really hard to overcome that. That was all the better, higher potential players that were getting swept up. I discovered that the 110s and the 120s, the potential 110s and 120s, they were sticking around. So McFadden, who just wasn't developing, sticking around. But Chris Webb, not developing very well, sticking around. Those guys got their start too early, back when we didn't have the facilities or the reputation or play at such a level where they just really didn't develop. And that's why they are lagging behind. That's why these two are amongst our worst players, even though they are amongst our best potential players. But for the most part, when you start looking up here, all these early 20-somethings, there was a lot of guys in that 23, 24, 25, 26-year-old range now where we were starting to develop better, faster. We were professional, and they're just not here. And those guys are primarily not here because they were the 130 pluses. They had the best potential, and we couldn't avoid them being sold. It helped us out, the finances, and growing the training facilities and whatnot, but it was hard to retain. The players we were able to retain was that next tier, the tier below. I think we're now at a stage where we're going to be able to retain most of our players are better players for the most part, right? Fewer and far between that we are losing somebody, and the finances that we get in return are getting more and more helpful in those regards. So retention's better, but now we need, because the 121s is full. It's chock full of players with a 130 plus, right? There are more 130 plus potential players in our under 21s by far than our senior squad. So there's a lot more potential here, but it's not like it's so far beyond what those guys are, but it'll help us carry it out a little bit better. It's going to be tricky getting to the Premier League. I think it's going to be very tricky, but it's going to take quite a few of these guys to get to that level. But look how close we are. I mean, Little was like a 90 at the start of the season. He's a 102 now. He's 18, and he's got the 132 potential, and he's going to be in that senior squad quite soon. He's now already had that first bench appearance, and Buttle got that last couple of minutes of a game. Alan Matthews, of course, got a few starts because of the injuries, but not only the potential of this group, but the quality of this group is developing rapidly. And down to U18s, at the same time, plenty of 130 plus down here. So better potential in the pipeline, but it's going to take a while to get it up there and to replace what we have at the senior squad level. And that's not a by next season kind of thing. It's going to take a few years for that to turn around. So I don't know, it could be a while before we ever see Premier League football. In the meantime, though, hopefully that reputation will just inch by inch climb, and we can get that last training facility upgrade done and get better coaches. And I do feel like we've stalled out a bit. I don't think I think we're looking at many years before this club's good enough to play in the Premier League. And I think it's going to be even longer before it's capable of competing in the Premier League. I don't know. I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep this going. Just the way it's headed. But at least for now, we're headed for safety. We are there. It's just don't know how much higher we can get anytime soon. Eventually, yes. Many years down the line. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. There's been some suggestions that we're not likely to stall out, but I just, like, where else are we going to get development? Like, these guys are almost as good as they're going to be. There's not much left to get out of them. And the group behind, 5 points better. Like, how much better is that going to make us? Add 5 points to current ability? Going to move us up 5 spots in the table. There's just such a huge gap top to bottom in the championship, and an even bigger gap to make that jump to the Premier League. And right now, Adekunle and Sam Julian are the only ones who could properly go in the Premier League, and there's just not, I don't know. That is going to do it for this episode, though. Next up is 4th round FA Cup, deepest run we've made, amazingly, and then flying through the second half of the season, especially with transfer deals done. One player out, Steve Walker, our 3rd best right now, but also one of those guys with limited potential, and sucks to lose him, but it's already netted a training facility upgrade, so I'll take it. I'm a Decathlon gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.